Hi, it's Roger here from what's on DisneyPlus.com. A quick news update for you guys on your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But before we go any further, make sure you do hit that subscribe button to keep up with the latest Disney Plus news. So this week, Disney is releasing the first 2 episodes of a brand new animated series, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So this show follows Peter Parker as he kind of goes through that typical high school year of his first year. And he's dealing with all the angst, girls. He's also obviously got superpowers. He's having to deal with supervillains and all this kind of stuff. Now, this show was originally announced back at the Disney Plus Day in 2021. It was called Spider-Man Freshman Year. At the time, they announced that it was going to be kind of set before the events of Captain America Civil War, where he was still just kind of learning to be Spider-Man. Didn't have all the gear, but he was still very much in the early stages. However, over the last couple of years, the show's kind of gone through a little bit of a change. It's now kind of set in a multiverse where it's still before the events of Civil War, but now it's got all different kind of things, different villains, all kinds of different characters going on in there. So it's not necessarily now no longer connected to the MCU, which does give the creators a little bit more flexibility. However, I'll be honest with the show of what I've seen, I kind of would have preferred it to have kind of completely separated from the MCU, but that's literally my only complaint about the entire series. But the good news is that back at the 2022 San Diego Comic-Con, it was announced that it was already been picked up for a second season. At the time, they were going to call it Spider-Man's sophomore year. Not gonna lie, glad they've dropped this whole freshman, sophomore year stuff, because let's be honest, that only really works in the United States. Outside of the US, here in the UK, that means absolutely nothing. We don't call them that, so even I had to kind of look up what they were when they first announced it. Like, what's that? But nevertheless, so they've renamed it to Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which it's not the best name. It's a bit long, a bit overwhelming. Plus, they spell your neighborhood wrong. But anyway, there's supposed to be a U in there, but they don't put it in there. And I keep making that same mistake when I'm trying to write it out. But nevertheless, spelling issues over. The good news is that Disney does look like it's got a lot of faith in it, because during a recent interview on the movie podcast, Brad Winderbaum, who is the executive producer on the show and also the head of Marvel TV, revealed that the show has been greenlit for a 3rd season on Disney Plus, and we'll be meeting the show's creator, Jeff Trammell, pretty soon to hear the pitch. He's also confirmed that the scripts for the 2nd season have already been done, and the animatics are already currently halfway through. So this is definitely a good indication that the show is got a lot of faith for Marvel, and looking at the initial critic response so far, it's been positive. It's the fact that if I'm one of the most negative people about it because I didn't like some aspects of it, and it's not that bad, it's still a really good show, just didn't like certain elements of it, that's a good sign. We'll obviously find out a little bit more when it goes out to a bigger audience. When it launches, they're going to be dropping like 2 episodes on the first week, then 3 episodes, and then another 3 episodes, and another 2 episodes. They're going to be throwing this thing out in about 4 weeks, I think, to kind of get it out the way before Daredevil Born Again, which I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit worried when I first heard this, because it felt a little bit like they were just throwing it out there as really quickly as possible. I'm also a little bit worried about the fact that there's not like merchandise available, and it's not really being pushed that much. This is a kind of a show I would have expected to have been really heavily promoted with new merchandise, but maybe they're just holding off, and then maybe by next Christmas they will be in a better situation because the show's been out. But this is where having a 2nd and a 3rd season kind of already underway kind of gives people hope. I do think it's a good thing as well when you're about to start a new show and it's been not only renewed for 1 more season but 2 more seasons. Much more likely going to check it out and be like, oh yeah, I can get invested in this, because it's not going to be a one and done, which is a big problem for a lot of shows right now. So that's good. However, I do want to put out that obviously, Marvel and Disney can change their mind. If the viewership on this show tanks, or there's a really negative reaction to it, they could pull the funding and just go, no, we're not cancel all work on it, it's cancelled. They could do that, or they could be like, okay, we'll do the 2nd season because it's nearly done, but we won't do we'll wait and see about the 3rd. They could still do that. The idea of it being greenlit and then working on it is good, and I think that's a really positive step forward. But just be aware, things can change. They can make changes, and especially before a show gets released. We've seen this with other shows in the past where they can kind of set stuff up. Look at Willow. they'd already planned on 3 seasons of that show. They just not only cancelled it, but deleted it. And we're never going to hear about those over 2 seasons. Now, moving forward, Marvel are looking to try and do multi-season shows. They do realise that that's the way to move forward. Animation generally does have much lower viewership than a live action one, so you can't really compare it to some of the live action shows and be like, oh, it's not done as well. Well, it's animation, it doesn't do as well generally anyway. Also, they are cheaper to make, and this one's going to be a lot more cheaper to make than like What If, because they don't have many of the MCU ones actors in there. I think the only one we've got are maybe like Kingpin and Daredevil, which even I'm like, well, why do that if it's not MCU? But I think that was a decision that was made early on. But yeah, I think this is a good thing moving forward. Now, I'm also thinking generally with Marvel moving forward, we're probably going to be seeing a lot less from them. They've already said they're going to be putting out a lot less live action content. They're not going to be getting 3-4 shows a year anymore. Probably 1 or 2. We've got 3 coming this year. Maybe 1 or 2 next year. Animation this year is very heavy. We've got a lot. We've got Spider-Man coming up later this week. We've also got Eyes of Wakanda, and then we've also got Marvel Zombies. So there's 3 different animated series dropping this year, but both Eyes of Wakanda and Marvel Zombies are both like 4-episode like mini-series, so they could just be one and done and gone. And then moving forward, I wouldn't be surprised if we've just got X-Men 97 and the Spider-Man cartoon. That might be enough just to alternate between them each year. Probably be enough to keep Disney Plus going. Generally, there's always kind of animated series from Marvel ongoing. We've seen it for decades. It just makes sense. It makes sense for them to keep doing it. Generally, they kind of aim at a younger audience that are interested in cartoons. Trying to find that audience right now is a little bit harder. But I think, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man being a major show for multiple years is a good thing. Hopefully people check it out. I like it as well. I do think moving it away from the MCU is for the best, because therefore they can keep the story going, do different things. And yeah, that's definitely, I think, a strong thing. But ahead of the show coming out, the fact now that we know that we've got this 3rd and 2nd seasons on the way, this is good. Hopefully people check it out. I'm hoping that people respond to it well. I thought it was a pretty cool show. The animation's a little bit funny to get used to, but I like the retro style of it. But let me know, what do you think of your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man getting at least 2 more seasons? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. And also, I just want to kind of lean in on that a little bit, because whereas these seasons, the first one is only 10 episodes, when I think back to like the cartoons when I was a kid, most cartoon shows were like 20, 30 episodes. So even if we got 3 seasons, that's only equivalent of like 1 season, from like Thundercats, Transformers, Spider-Man, that kind of thing when I was a kid. But I think this is a good step moving forward. Hopefully we see more of it. But let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow and subscribe, and I shall see you guys soon. Laters.